Hello everyone, welcome to our Google Sheets theme park activity. In this tutorial we're going to learn how to copy and paste colors, pull data from a different sheet or tab, learn a little bit about autofill, write a sum formula in the formula bar, as well as do some math operations, and at the very end we're going to create a pie graph. And overall just kind of get comfortable with Sheets and learn how a Sheets project can be tied together to make for a useful tool. So let's just kind of give a bit of an overview of what we're working with here. To the left here, you can kind of see we have a green grid here, which would be our theme park plan. To the right, we have list of items like such as roller coaster, ride, cafe, and other items. Certain number of cells that they take up. If we go down below, we have materials and what the price is per material. And that's kind of it for the first page. If we go to the second tab, which is the cost analysis, if we click on that, this is a little bit where we get our breakdown. And this will allow us to take kind of what the material cost is for each particular item to come up with how much each should cost based on the material cost. And we're going to kind of go over how to do that. And we're going to do that for every item that we have on the first page. And then down below, what we're going to do is we're going to pull in that subtotal data here and then multiply by the total of each to get us a total cost of all of them, all of the attractions on our map. And then we can pull that down into the total cost. And we do have 500,000 to spend and to see if we're over or above budget. And then at the very end, create a pie graph on what the total cost of each attraction group is. So with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. You can see I went ahead and got started with creating a roller coaster just to kind of show what that looks like. We have 10 cells here that are red color. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And to accomplish this, what you're going to want to do is highlight the color next to the item you want to build. And I just hit Control C. You can also right click and copy. I think it's available in the edit menu as well to copy. However you need to copy this color, just go ahead and do it. And then go over to your map and select where you want to put your particular item. So for example, for this ride, it's 6 cells. So I'm just going to build an item here. I'm using Control V just to kind of speed things up. But feel free to use any kind of pasting method you want. You can right click and paste like that. You can go up to edit and paste from there. I prefer the keyboard shortcuts just because it's just a little bit quicker. I'm going to go ahead and take that away. And I'm just going to put one of each of these items on our map here. So let's say our cafe is 3 squares. So I'm just going to put our cafe there. Let's go to our shop and let's go ahead and make a little shop down here. You can kind of see I was able to do more than 1 square at a time by clicking and dragging an area. And that's a bit of a shortcut if you like to do that. I'm going to make an ice cream stand down here. Let's put in a toilet, maybe kind of right here. A medical center is 4 squares, so I'm just going to put that off here on the side. And then as far as bins and trees and paths, I'm going to go ahead and just kind of do one right down the middle. So I'm going to start with the path, and I'm going to highlight this whole horizontal area and just paste in a path with the Control V. I'm going to put a couple bins along the path here. I'm going to put a couple trees on the path. There we go. And then as far as a lake, let's go ahead and just make a little lake kind of maybe up here, a 3x3 lake. So I'll go ahead and paste that in. So there's just kind of a basic overview of our theme park and kind of the plan that I wanted to kind of put together. There are a few items that have more than one, and we'll kind of revisit that. But what I'd like to do is kind of take a moment to look at these material costs. Now, these might change really at any time. And so what I'd like to do is have everything on the cost analysis tab kind of be dependent on this. And so what I'd like to do is pull these values, not just by clicking on cost analysis and typing them in, but I actually want to pull it from the first page, like what the actual value is. So to do that, I'm going to go to cost analysis here, and I'm going to, for concrete, here in B4, I'm just going to hit equals. I'm going to click on the design tab, and I'm going to click on that cell, and you can kind of see it filled in the formulas equals design exclamation point x16, and that's just the coordinate of this tab. Because the tab is named design, it's going to use that. The exclamation point just kind of creates that separation between the tab name and then the coordinate, which is x. You go all the way over there at 16, and once that's done, you just hit enter. We go back to the tab and it says 40. Now, what this does do, if we go over here and we say we change this to 42, like concrete just went up by 2 per unit. If we go back here, see it's changed on the second tab. So that's a really useful way of kind of pulling in values that maybe change and just kind of keep track of the changes in one place. So let's go ahead and keep doing that. I'm going to go ahead and equals, go to design. I'm going to click on the electronics, hit enter, and you can kind of see it's got 40, 60. Now it should be able to kind of determine a pattern here. But let's do one more. I'm going to hit equals, and you can kind of see it has a suggestion here. Is it design at position X18? Why, I think it is. So let's go ahead and click that, hit enter, and that's what it is. It's 70. So it's now figuring out the pattern of what we want to do. If they were scattered all over the first tab, you would probably want to not do the autofill. You always have to kind of error correct that. But what I'd like to do is copy this pattern down. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy these two, so it should get an idea of what the pattern is, and then get to the corner where the cursor turns to this black X. Let me kind of show you that one more time. I'm going to highlight these three now. See how it's a cursor, and we get right to the corner, it highlights into a black cross. Once it gets to that black cross, click, drag down, and it should copy the pattern it thinks is right down. Now let's just double check to make sure. You can see it does go down one row at a time: 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, and 22. And they are corresponding materials on the front and second page. So if we go over here, they are in the same order. So we're good to go there. Now that we have the price per material, what I'd like to do is come up with a cost for these items. So let's go ahead and let's do an equation here under D4. We want to figure out how much the concrete would cost for the roller coaster. So to do this, we're going to start with the equal sign. Remember, that's always needed if we're going to do some sort of function or equation. And in this case, we're just going to do an equation. We're going to say equals the cost of concrete, which is B4, times the shift 8, that's a little star, and then we're going to times it by C4, which is the number of units that we need. We hit enter, and you can see once I do that, Sheets is really smart. It kind of recognizes, hey, are you wanting to do this autofill? And what we can do is we can go ahead and accept this, and we can click on each one of these and just kind of see what it's pulling in to complete this. And you can see it did get this right all up until it tried to actually do this. And there's no numbers over here. And so it wasn't able to complete this properly, which is okay. Let's go ahead and just delete what equation it thought it was. And instead, what I'd like to do in the subtotal area here is I'd like to sum up all these numbers. So this will tell us how much a roller coaster ultimately costs with the building materials it requires. So with this cell highlighted, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to this function area. You don't necessarily have to. You can go to the cell itself and start hitting equals. But you can see it does build it up in the function area itself up here. So just know if you kind of get stuck or you're not sure what it's saying, because sometimes those cells can be kind of small, look up to that fx. That's where the function, you can see more of it. There's more space to show it. So just know that that's something that you can do. So I'm going to hit equals sum, open paren, and then I'm going to click and highlight the range I want to sum. So I'm going to click on D4 here and drag it down to D10, and then I'm just going to hit enter, so it'll fill up, it'll actually populate that closing paren, and I'll show you in just a second. So I'm going to hit enter, and if we click on that cell again, it went ahead and it did that function properly. So it has equals sum, open parentheses, the range that it's taking as an argument is D4 to colon D10. So it's all of these cells, and then it adds them all up here. Now, what we would like to do now is kind of do this for the rest of these. So let's go to our rides. Now we did have one ride on the first page, so let's see if we can go ahead and build that equation out. So we want to say equals, and we're still going to use concrete, so we're going to still use B for the cost of concrete, times the units needed, which is E4. So times E4 and hit enter. Now it's smart, it's going to try to do autofill again. We're going to allow it. I'm actually just going to kind of pull this row out just a little bit, just because we don't need it as big as maybe if we were going to auto correct, if we go up here and we double click. I just want to keep it kind of narrow here. Now it went ahead and it did all the calculations, I believe correctly here. See, 70 times 10 is 700, and so all of these should be correct except for the subtotal. Again, it's still trying to do one more where it's trying to pull in values that aren't there. We would rather have the sum there, so let's type in that function again. So equals sum, open paren, let's highlight the range, hit enter, and that should be our subtotal for our ride. And it's pretty much rinse and repeat all the way down. So let's go ahead and do this over and over just to kind of show all the steps that we need to accomplish this. And I'm going to kind of do this a little bit quicker just because we've already done it kind of slower a couple times. So it's equals B4 times and G4 there, enter. Let's go ahead and use that autofill. Let's make it a little bit bigger. And we want to sum up all those totals together to get the total cost. Equals sum, open paren, highlight the range, hit enter, and now we have our total cost for our cafe. Same thing for shop. Equals B4, which is our cost, times I4, which is the units needed for our shop. Enter, autofill, and get rid of that error. Let's put in our function sum, get our range there, hit enter, make that a little bit bigger just so we can get a little bit idea what that says. And you can kind of see each one of these sum functions, it is getting the range correctly, and it's going to go ahead and do the math correctly for us. So same thing, ice cream stand equals B4 times, and we're going to do K4, and enter, autofill, make it a little bit bigger. Let's put it in our function here, equals sum, pull our range down. And I'm not going to bore you with, I'm going to fill these in and pause it really quick and come back in just a minute, just because we've done this several times. I think you probably have an idea, but we're going to come back to this in just a second. All right, you guys, I'm back. So I went ahead and completed the rest for our different items in our theme park here. I've also completed the total of each. I went to the map and kind of counted up how many roller coasters, all the way to medical centers, how many bins, how many squares of path we had, how many squares of lakes, and how many trees. And so from here, what I'd like to do is use these particular totals to get the total cost of each for our park here. So for roller coasters, what I'd like to do is take the subtotal for roller coasters, which is D11. So I'm going to say equals D11 and times, and the total of each, which is B14. Because we just have one, it should be the same. Let's hit enter. Now, if this were to change to 2, you can kind of see what would happen here. We hit enter, and it'll be twice the amount. So that's why we wanted to kind of include the total of each, so it would kind of update automatically like that. So let's go ahead and do the same thing for rides. So equals F11 times total of each, which is B15. Enter. And you can kind of see it is going to double that. Let's make that 1 because there was only one ride. And I'm going to pause here. I'm going to do the same thing for these all the way down until we get to bins. Actually, that's going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to pause and complete the rest. Everybody, you can see I've completed the rest of the total cost of each until I got to bins, because if you look at bins, they actually have a flat cost here. And so this is going to be pulling data from the first sheet again. So let's go ahead and come back here to bins. I'm going to say equals the number of bins, which is B21, and hit that shift 8 for times, go to our design here and get the flat cost and hit enter. And that'll bring it to 400, which is 2 times 200, which is what we want. Same with paths. We're going to say equals B22 times, go to our first sheet. You can kind of see our path is here at 50, enter, and now it's 1,050. I'm going to go ahead and pause and finish the last two. So we're back. So what we've done is the total cost of each. For the total cost of the theme park, we've summed all of this. And then to get the money left over, what we've done is C27 minus C26. And then to get our pie chart, we want to highlight this, insert chart,